Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. So, last video that I'll do on the Mikhaila Peterson, Mohammed Hijab, and Ayaan show that they did together, I want to say that I think she gave one of the most laziest responses to the differences between Christianity and Islam, which really proved Mohammed Hijab's point that she's unqualified. And she just has these short, kind of almost Fox News like talking points. And I guess maybe I'm a bit biased because I study so many other religions and I dig really into things like just so zoned in, right? But the fact that she brought up that the followers reject the Old Testament and only look at the New Testament, and that the New Testament is nicer and soft, you know? And I'm thinking in my head, right? Does she not know the history of the Catholic popes and the wars? Does she not know the Salem witch trials, where the Puritans and others and such had issues with certain pagans and certain girls acting certain ways? Does she not know that Baptists, Methodists, and all these different sects, they had slaves, right? They whipped their black female slaves, tied them to a pole, and lashed them. And the Christian male owners had children's, there was a word, I'm not going to say it, but they had a certain word. No, it wasn't the N-word, has an M. But they had children with their female slaves, okay, on the plantations in the South, okay? And some of them even sold their own kids into slavery, okay? And the Christians, they wiped out the Native American tribes in America, in Peru, in Mexico, right? It's hilarious that why do so many Christians, they're ashamed of their strong past? I think it's the age of the hyper-feminized male that's happening. Because Buddhists they're paused, but if you think about it, if some of them were trained in martial arts as well. In fact, many of these, Asian faiths, they did have strong monks who would use the sword. If they were pushed, they would be very stoic, deep into meditation, and some of them would push back on you. But today, because of the liberal hippie, Burning Man, druggy culture, the people who are smoking weed all the time, they're lazy and don't want to work, and then people think that's the kind of the religious spirituality of pacifism, right? Where you're a whipping boy for anyone who wants to, that you have no force to defend yourself and have no energy to press forward to stop evil. That you're like seaweed in the ocean. You just go this way, that way. So it's fascinating how she's the Old Testament, Jesus came and he didn't make any new laws, and there was the Old Testament and the New Testament, and that's what's wrong with Christians. It's the same God. Jehovah, Yahweh, however you want to put it. It's the same God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's the same God. If you reject the Old Testament, you're insulting God. You idiots. It's just amazing. And you're insulting Abraham and Noah. Okay? It's in Samson in the Bible. Remember, we were just reading him in it's he was a warrior. He was tied when the people got him, his enemies. He literally made a building crumble on top of them so they would all die together. I mean, does she reject and mock these figures in the Bible and think only the New Testament? And it's really strange how they really infantilize Jesus. I really wonder what's going to happen, on the Day of Judgment, if they'll have to really repent and be punished for how they made Jesus such a feminized human being. Oh, he's a lamb. Oh, he's so weak and soft. It's he is one in a chain of who's talked about in the Bible. Okay? Each one of them gives you an aspect of consciousness that you can emulate. It's ridiculous how Christians will reject the strength of their ancestors who spread their religion and fantasize about this new Christianity, which is really controlled and soft and has been smushed by liberal atheists, you know? And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre, you know? I mean, the Catholics who went to Spain, and they were there, and then all Spain became Catholic, and then they paid for explorers to colonize and look around. A mature person says, that's the way the world works. Even insects, they conquer. Wolves, they have territory. Tigers have territory. That is the system that God has created. And if you look in the Old Testament, it talks about how God will give the hand to possess different lands. Who's, in charge of that? And there was a patriarchal system. Okay? It's just amazing how she seems so uneducated on Christianity in general, but even in specifics of different sects. It's quite interesting. It's like, did you not know the Catholic monarchs? Did you not know how the Catholics fought with the pagans across the world? These same women will say, oh, you can't be mad at a prostitute. Don't hate the player, hate the game, respect the hustle. But then if a Christian or a Muslim has military skirmishes, that's just so bad. It's like these people are very city people who are stuck in this digital reality where they think that anarchy and struggle will never come back to their area and that weak men can rule. And this is absurd. It's absurd. You cannot reject all the prophets and all the people spoken about in the Bible just because Jesus didn't lead a military campaign. Right? And it's just fascinating, It's like, Islam spread by the sword. It's like, why do Christians deny that Christianity conquered North America, conquered Mexico, conquered Peru, right? What? Italy, I'm talking about. She's like, oh, well, Christians, they started in an empire. Yeah, and how did the Christians end up? They were in the Colosseum getting eaten. They had to fight and get strong. Christians fought in Alexandria. There were skirmishes with Christians everywhere. It's only in the modern age that they're so soft because they had their teeth ripped out by secular liberal atheists. And the weakening of them has happened because of comedians. Because of comedians. And people don't recognize this fact. But Christians allowed for Jesus to be mocked in the most horrible ways that it reduced the morality of the Christians and they don't defend Jesus. And some of them will even like memes where Jesus is mocked as all sorts of horrible things. Whereas in Islam, we don't depict the prophets and we don't disrespect them. It's much different. Right? There's a whole history of all the different sects. The Quakers, the Puritans, the Evangelicals, that all go in their own little ways. But to pretend like Christianity never engaged in war, never wanted to rule the world, is completely dishonest. Completely dishonest. And Moses, he had so many nuances about him in the Bible, which is different than in the Quran. So if she's talking about, the Old Testament, you're insulting Moses, you're insulting Noah, you're insulting so many of them. May Allah be pleased with them all. And it's just so amazing how she seems to just have zero strength. Zero strength. And then gives these tiny little condensed talking points on Islam and tiny little condensed talking points on Christianity. And anyone who's really gone into the underbelly of Christian history can see that she's clearly just not being honest. The Spanish Inquisition. And Christians have to stop being ashamed of their past. Because I think this weird anti-strength culture is denying reality. Have you just, for example, go watch what an ant colony does to the queen ant of the invading force. They rip her apart. You just have to look, like a crow will take a baby squirrel. I mean, a great white shark, she has all her babies in her belly. Only one survives because they all kill each other and only one makes it out. The animal world that these kind of people romanticize is pretty brutal. You know what I'm saying? There are dogs that even sometimes their puppies are born and they won't like them, and if they go to nurse, the mother will bite them. Something happens in the mother where she rejects her pups. Nature is intense. And Allah has designed a system of intensity. Whining about strength, fantasizing about a weak utopia is not going to work, especially when military robots are being created. So, Ayaan Hirsi, I didn't know much about her, but I have lost all willingness to hear her out. She's not a scholar. She's not even well-versed, can't even speak correctly. She speaks like she's very, very afraid. And she speaks like she has no conviction. I think she had female genital mutilation done on her. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry she was traumatized in that way. But you had a trauma, but to now crusade because a person in a particular area harmed you, but you don't look at the actual dogmatic principles of what you talk about. It's really dishonest. And again, she really didn't do well to slander the niqab and stuff, because we're dealing in an age of utter hedonism, even more so than the Renaissance. And then when Mohammed Hijab mentioned that the concept of gira and not letting men feast upon your woman, this is brilliant to mention because of the fact the liberals today, husbands will let their wives do yoga in almost tight clothes. You can see everything on that woman, and she'll let the male yoga instructor touch her and get really intimate and behind her, and the men, they just don't care. She's a free, empowered woman, and then when she cheats on him with the yoga instructor, he's like, whatever. They don't have a very tight marriages. It's more loose, It's really different because they let their women show everything to everyone, to a dog, a cat, an old man, a little boy, a little girl. They really enjoy, trying to stimulate anything and everything for attention dopamines. Whereas Muslim women have a different objective, right? There's a saying, for example, that if a woman is beautiful and she starts talking, men are only paying attention to her because of her beauty. But if you put on a niqab or a burqa and men are paying attention to you, you have more wisdom. A lot of women use their sex appeal to get views. That's going to run out if you don't have actual knowledge, right? And better men, not piggish, dangerous men, are going to sit and listen to you, what you have to say, if you actually have some truth in what you say, even when you're covered up. And that is the better goal. It's better than just putting on red lipstick and looking very so much makeup, and the light bulb is just right and you have to hold your face just like this and then speak at a 5th grade level, and then all these men will throw money at you. It's much different than the niqabi sisters, the hijabi sisters, the burqa sisters, who are dropping just knowledge all day. They're scholars. Boom, 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 we get knowledge. And they cut off a lot of that lust, and they're like, I ain't interested in your simping. I'm here to drop knowledge. Let's exchange information. Let's educate each other. Boom, we're about that. So the niqab facilitates you connecting with the like consciousnesses that allow you to go on your true seeking path and to cut off any sexual energy. She don't mention that. She just talks about the niqab as something oppressive, and never mentions how hypersexualization and hypersexualization is bad or has any negative side. It's really quite interesting, and I liked how Mohammed Hijab calling her by her real name, Milahan. That was pretty awesome. And also mentioned how she had an affair. She's a hypocrite. I mean, that was pretty potent for me because she slanders polygamy, which is freaking marriage and stability and honorable, when she herself was a mistress. I mean, you can't make this up. And then when he mentions a credipitarian, I couldn't spell it right, credipitarian, and calls her a charlatan, which I think he's highly correct. And, you know, it was just really cool. You know, and again, how he mentioned not identical in roles, and that nuclear families are under attack, and what else? Yeah, I think I covered it all, yeah. But, oh yeah, and how he mentioned Islam gives him meaning. Yeah, I covered all my notes and all the videos. But again, I really liked it. He used a very good finesse of English, potent but not too hard, and it was the first time I saw him kind of really drop so much knowledge. I don't know how any of the apostates can deny that Mohammed Hijab did a good job in this one. He did better in this one than he did in Peterson with her father. He did good in that one. But I mean, like with Mikhaila, she was just listening to both sides, you know, like, So she was kind of like a neutral person, asking the same questions. But if you compare Ayaan's substance with Mohammed Hijab's substance, he was way more encompassing. He talked about what Islam did for him, about the history, the roles of women. He gave just bam, 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 facts. And she was more like, Islam is violent, and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's just like, you really just can't say anything good, can you? And then she's like, they're voting with their feet by coming to the West. It's like, you're not going to mention the wars? You're not going to mention American foreign policy? You're not going to mention why? It's like, you know? And then she's not going to mention any of the reasons how Christianity failed to protect America from so much of the occultic things on the rise. But again, they never talk about the occultists. Start paying attention to that. They call it a conspiracy, it's this, it's that. It's a faith. It's a group of faiths. It's real. If you got time to mock Islam, why are you not digging into those occultic orders? Well, they're hidden, you know. It's just amazing. Just amazing. If she thinks Islam is dangerous, but thinks Satanism isn't, and thinks it's just people who put black nail polish on their fingers and have a nose ring, then she's really even more undereducated than what I think people realize. So, I'm sorry that she had a traumatic childhood. But for her to deny that modesty is good, that polygamy is security in marriage, and to ignore that there's 13 million single mothers, and to just really minimize the conversation to these oversaid talking points is ridiculous. Even on inheritance, it's like men have more responsibility. It's the patriarchal system. You know, she doesn't have anything negative to say about feminism. That's why I think, imagine her, I'll be funny here. Imagine the red pill Muslims having a conversation with her about gender roles. You know what I mean? You know, it'd be beautiful. You know, the red pill guys come after me a lot, but I just think like, okay, you know, like that's, she has nothing bad to say about feminism. So, subhanAllah, good job on Mohammed Hijab. He's holding it down. Fantastic. Came with the heat. Didn't get too hard. Wasn't too soft. She wants to go around shaming a religion. She has to be willing to take the slings. You want to throw mud? Mud gets thrown back. That's how it is. You can't be, I'm an empowered feminist woman. And when people criticize you, you're like, oh, now I'm sure she gets way more death threats than me. I get a lot of threats. I get insulted. It can be hyper annoying. But when she has chosen to foster way more fear around average Muslims and women like me who were born American and love the niqab, and she's trying to work hard, I think, to get it banned, it's like she's disrobing us. She's dishonoring us. We have a right to want to verbally defend our faith, right? So, very cool. It took me a while to do these videos just because I had to watch in segments. It was 1 hour and 40 minutes. I had other things to do. So I had to break it up in pieces. as well as keep up with some other things I had to do. But hopefully, with this playlist that I created, I have given you an in-depth response to it. And Daniel Hikikachu should go next against her. That'd be awesome. Many more should go up against her as well. But she's getting paid. Her book, right? Her book. It's all about that money, all about that cheddar. That's why we need more Niqabi sisters writing books. We need more Niqabi sisters counteracting their fake narrative. Saying, why they like to be modest. Why they don't want to be like Katy Perry and, these adult entertainment women. Why we like what we like. And why Allah's system has wisdom, right? But I think that'll come out in our new golden age. I think Islam's going to have a golden age in America. I really do. There's going to be whole generations like me who are producing children, growing up in America, really seeing how America has fallen and trying to get religiosity back in the country, and then consistently combating against the secular, liberal, feminist atheists, because we're in a culture war, right? It's a spiritual warfare. So I think if we keep pressing forward, and we're going to have our own history here in America, Islam in America, and Islam in Canada. We won't just be confined to the East, and then this will force more people to talk about Islam even more so, because it'll be more around them, and they can't just push it off to the East, right? And it won't allow these women to only frame it in something negative. So hopefully I have done the podcast justice and given you in-depth analysis, and I think I have. So have a good day, and talk to you next time.